Guys, how you doing? I decided to make a wee video. I've not done one of these for ages. I don't even know if I've done one in 2023, never mind 2024. But a wee spare half hour, and I just thought I'd do a video based on a couple of questions that have maybe cropped up in the last few weeks of this block. Recurring questions from a few different people, so I just thought maybe it'd be easier to address some of the points and maybe try and explain things that will hopefully make a wee bit more sense. Because I sometimes think, especially based on a couple of conversations I had the last few days, that sometimes people overthink it a wee bit with regards to nutrition, and that's maybe that's partly because of the messages I'm sending out. So I thought if I can try and explain it a wee bit more depth in a conversational way, then it might help. So obviously, so far the main message that has been, well, the central message has been to try, for those that are trying to achieve weight loss or fat loss, is to try and do two things: increase your protein intake in your diet on a daily basis, and to be aware of your daily step count and try and increase that. So they're the two things that you've been kind of asked to do. So that the idea behind that is to try and keep things nice and simple, to not like overawe you with like lots and lots of information, and to just give you some simple things to try and change or actively introduce, I guess, as opposed to necessarily change. But yeah, I suppose it's semantics what the meaning of the word means. But so with regarding that, it's not a case of like, it's not a case of if you're trying to lose fat or weight that all you need to do is add protein to your diet or increase your protein intake and walk more, and then suddenly, hey presto, that's it, you're done, you're sorted. It's not as simple as that. Obviously, there's a few other factors that you need to take into account, but the fundamental idea is that if you increase your protein intake, usually you'll feel fuller for a start, so you'll be less likely to therefore then overeat, and it's overeating in the first place that leads to weight gain. So if you're trying to reduce the amount you're eating and you consume foods that help make you feel fuller, then the theory should be that you're less likely to therefore overeat. So that's why high protein diet has been shown time and time and time again in hundreds of studies to be the most effective way to do that, because it is the most satiating nutrient. But it's not only the protein, okay? So obviously you have to take in the wider context of your diet as well. But that's just the first stop shop, okay? And try not to overthink it. It doesn't mean that you should be constantly seeking out protein snacks and protein this and protein that. Ultimately, the main message is to be around like the fact that in your breakfast, your lunch and dinner, try and be consciously aware of the protein content in them. So to give an example, like cereal is quite a popular breakfast in this country, I guess, and everywhere. But cereal isn't a high protein meal. Okay, it doesn't have much. And when I say high protein, I would say anything that has about 30 grams of protein, 25 to anywhere from 25 grams up, I would consider a pretty decent protein sort of meal. So cereal, a bowl of cereal wouldn't contain that. Now that doesn't mean necessarily that you shouldn't have cereal. Okay, now 15 year ago me would have said don't touch cereal, but that's because I was a lot more sort of dogmatic and strict, and it was like maximise results in the shortest space of time and cut out this, cut out that, cut out all these things. Now in essence it did work, but it wasn't a sustainable solution for most folk. So I fairly caught onto that quite quickly and changed everything, especially when I realised that a long-term sustainable approach is obviously what people really need. So you can still have your cereal if that's something that you feel is the most convenient thing for you, but be aware therefore though that it's not necessarily going to help your fat loss goals if that's your goals, because you've not got a lot of protein in there, so you need to consider that. So a simple swap would be poached eggs and scrambled eggs, poached eggs and toast, for example. But you might not want to change what you're eating. You might even not want to. It might just be that you don't want to have, or you don't have the time to make a wee hot breakfast or whatever. So a simple solution, therefore, could be to have a protein supplement and alongside the cereal. So that's what a supplement is. That just that the clue is in the name. It's to supplement your diet, not to replace it. Same with vitamin supplements, like they're to supplement your diet or to get more of something in that you're maybe not getting enough of in. So depending on what you're eating for breakfast, lunch and dinner, you may or may not need a protein supplement. So it kind of depends on what you're consuming at each meal. So it's really all about the main meals ultimately: your breakfast, your lunch and your dinner. And that's what you need to consider on a sort of simple basis. So when you consider that a supplement of protein has, if you take 2 scoops portion. There's 40 grams of protein in that. So if you weigh 60 kilograms, for example, you're aiming for between 100 and 120 grams of protein a day. If you're taking a 40 gram protein supplement every day, then right away you're already a third of the way there to your target, your required or appropriate optimum protein intake. When you then consider that, for example, a chicken breast has about 40 grams of protein in it. So if you were to have a chicken breast for your dinner, for example, like a stir fry and some rice or noodles and a chicken breast, then suddenly you're already at 80 grams of a target of 120 for the day. So when you take it in that context, can of tuna, it's maybe got about 25 grams in it. When you take it in the contents of foods that you might have for breakfast, lunch and dinner, getting to sort of 1.5 grams to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight isn't actually that much. It's not actually that difficult. Okay, so it's then a case of just building your meals around that. When it comes to snacks, you don't need to be opting for protein snacks. The whole, like I said, the whole point is that you should be really achieving, or you shouldn't be needing snacks really to reach your daily protein targets or your rough daily protein targets, because it should be made up of your daily diet anyway, of your meals. So don't overthink it on the snack front. You don't need to be like looking out for protein snacks, especially in this day and age, because like obviously like the marketing world or I've caught on to the whole protein tag. So you often get protein snacks that are protein produce in shops that will say they're high protein, or their tagline will be high protein snack, but really most of the time they aren't actually that high protein. Like I said, a high protein source would be something that has about 25 grams or above in it. So if it's not got that in it, then it's not, I wouldn't call it high protein. Okay, I mean, your average pint of milk's probably get more protein than most of these snacks that you'll pay £2.50, £3 for. Again, that doesn't mean you shouldn't take the protein snacks. I just mean you don't need them necessarily if you're getting your actual daily food intake, like, right. So if you're getting that right plus a protein supplement, you're probably going to reach it anyway. If you want a bit of extra protein, for example, and you fancy a wee extra thing, then go for it, and it's not going to do any harm. But it doesn't have to be so focused that you're then got sort of laser vision with protein only, and then as a result you're not having like a piece of fruit would be a good snack, do you know what I mean? And it's obviously got nutrients in it. So there's certain things that protein doesn't have, like, and that is your nutrients and your vitamins. So that's why it's all about a balanced diet. So ultimately a balanced diet to me is meals that contain a reasonable amount of each macronutrient, macronutrients being proteins, fats and carbs. So for example, if we give like cereal again as that example at the start, so to me cereal is fine, but it's not a particularly overly balanced meal because it's not got really any protein in it. It's got carbohydrates in it, good, it's got a wee bit of fat in it, it's got some fibre in it, so there is some good points to it. So that's what I mean. So there's not one single food or meal that's going to tick all the boxes anyway, and protein is included in that. So protein doesn't tick every box. It ticks a very important macronutrient box though. But beyond that, obviously you need to then consider other things. Now, I'm not asking you to therefore consider all your vitamins and go through vitamins being your micronutrients and go through everything and make sure you're getting enough of every vitamin in. I just mean though that be aware that protein intake is a great start point. It's much easier to adhere to things, but it's not just like all about the protein. There's other things to consider, and a balanced diet of a bit of everything is the way to go. It's just that most folk don't tend to, or most folk that struggle their weight maybe don't tend to have as much the right balance of the nutrients. So that was one thing, and that was the main thing that kind of cropped up a few times. Like, I think people were struggling for protein snacks, but you don't necessarily need to be thinking about protein snacks. Like, you can take them or leave them. Just keep it simple. For example, I wouldn't stop eating fruit and replace them with protein snacks, because like fruit and your vegetables has got all your nutrients in them and your fibre. Protein doesn't have fibre in it, for example, and that's where your sort of complex carbohydrates come in, as well as your fruit, obviously, and vegetables. So yeah, hopefully, maybe going round the circles here a wee bit, but the main message, I guess, is try not to overthink it. Protein's important, yeah, but don't put it on a pedestal. Like, it's not the only thing you should be focusing on. But for most folks starting out, especially if they're trying to achieve fat loss, it's just about readdressing the balance of meals and making sure that there's a decent protein source in each of them. If this raises more questions than answers, then feel free to email back. But I think I'll leave it there with that one.